Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm still Pallavi Valia Raj. And what if I said that good design is all about making other designers feel like imbeciles because the idea wasn't theirs? You know what? You've got the idea, right? That I am definitely not the right person to communicate with if you'd like to explore careers in communication design. So, well, that is definitely the panel discussion that we're heading towards right now. Careers in communication design, powered by Raffles Design International Mumbai. And thank God for the fact that there are experts on this panel discussion who are definitely going to be able to give you a brilliant idea. This is going to be one insightful session. So help me welcome the moderator of this panel, co-founder and director, Elephant Design, India's largest independent integrated design consultancy, Ms. Ashwini Deshpande. Thank you very much for joining us, Ashwini. I'd also like to welcome our esteemed panelists along with her. Founder, CEO, Kyoorius Group, Mr. Rajesh Kejriwal. Thank you very much, Rajesh ji, for being here with us this afternoon. Thank you. We also have with us Chairman and Managing Director of the illustrious Della Group. Please welcome Mr. Jimmy Mistry. Thank you very much, Jimmy, for being here with us. And we're so excited to listen in to all of you. But we also have one more panelist, visual communication designer, Raffles Design International, Ms. Chaity Tan. Thank you very much, Chaity, for joining us. And it's all yours, Ashwini. Although, I'm quite sure that some awesome designers who come up with some really kick-ass ideas do feel a little sadistic burst of happiness when other designers look like idiots. But well, having said that, it's all yours, Ashwini.
Thank you. Thank you, Pallavi. On that note, yeah, I think designers love to be idiots because that's how you get great ideas, and that's how you get ideas that have never been done before. So on that note, I'm just going to begin with a couple of things about our panelists that I know, and thank you for introducing them already. So I'm not just representing Elephant, I'm also representing the Association of Designers of India, who have been knowledge partners to this show as well. And ADI is actually for all professional designers or anybody who's curious about design, design student, academicians, and anybody at all who cares about design. So just beginning with the basic, let's start at the beginning. What is communication design? Because our panel is all about communication design. So let's just sort of begin by dumb proofing and saying what is communication design? What do all of us feel it is? And I'm going to begin with what I feel communication design is. It's planning, it's creating, it's shaping, expressing ideas and messages for problem solving or for persuasion and also for pleasure. And that's really how I sort of look at communication design. And I'm going to invite our panelists to tell what their point of view is. I'm going to begin with Chaity, who has a long career in visual communication, and she's been an illustrious academician. Chaity, how do you express when somebody says, what is communication design?
See, it's a very straightforward thing. When you put it into visual, everything is visual now. So, and it's how powerful it is. So we use images, visuals to communicate design. So say, for example, and a lot of people misunderstood actually what is that as compared to like web design and things like that. Think about it, like right now, if everybody is so thirsty, I want a Coke, all right? As you walk along, you probably watched something on TV, someone was wearing, like having thumbs up and whatever. Along the way, when you're bombarded with all this visual communication, the moment when you step into the supermarket, you probably won't pick Coke anymore. You'll pick another thing. And that's how powerful visual communication is. Why do you think people are still, like you think Coca-Cola right now, it's so famous. Why do they need to? They have to because there's a lot of competition around.
Sure, that's
yes, and things have changed, especially now with social media. So
absolutely,
if you are doing your work, there's some pop-up coming up. Okay, and maybe it's Maggie. Our next thing is I want to have Maggie. Isn't it? And the visual, say for example, I've seen my student order food online, Swiggy. Like they started off, I want this food, okay? And then they end up ordering totally different food. Why?
Yeah, so you think it's all about communication design, which is persuading them to do something, take some decisions, right?
Yes. So this is what, and frankly, you don't need like 10 pairs of jeans, but why do we keep buying? Because every time we hope like, wow, this pair of jeans will make us look slim. You know, that's how they do in visual.
Right.
That's how they communicate, that persuade us to buy things.
Right. And also, just on the other note, I think communication design is also used for good decision making, which is not just consumerism, but many other kinds of decisions which are good for people, good for the world, and so on. Right?
Yes, yes.
So I'm going to move on to Jimmy and ask him what he thinks. What is the role of communication design in our lives and also in your profession?
Communication design, there is no strategy in the world that can be implemented without communication design. So, strategy in a physical form, which results into a call to action for any business is basically communication design. For me, it's super important that communication design is better understood by the designers as on today, because I have personally felt that between physical design and communication design, there has always been a gap in the design world. But post-COVID, especially when things are so dynamic and everybody needs to press a reset mode and recalibrate and move ahead, communication design is all the more critical because emotions are at a very different level right now. Emotions are running too high, maybe in a positive direction, maybe in a negative direction. And at this point, one wrong messaging can ruin the brand.
Absolutely.
Case in point is a brand that just went ahead and put out an ad stating we are opening, you can book, and we'll give you a 50% discount. The kind of badgering that people have given the brand is, do you need money to pay your salaries? Do you need our money to do this, that? So the idea is it touched somewhere a wrong emotional nerve. Their communication design failed in a manner that it hurt people's sentiments. Now, in a situation like today, communication design is very, very relevant. You need to use deep-rooted design thinking. You need to use empathy to understand and connect very genuinely. And why not? Empathy cannot be fake. Empathy has to come from right deep within. Now, when your communication design is actually representing it, who you are, the true DNA of the product you're offering, be it, like she said, a Maggi noodle or be it anything. But if you're emotionally connecting with the consumer, and that design is good design right now, and God save you if you go in a wrong direction, because if your empathy is only a lip service and it's not deep-rooted within the DNA of the organization, it is going to speak volumes about you and your brand will soon become irrelevant in today's day and age.
Absolutely. I think we are bombarded with so much media and so much messaging, and if you go wrong, there's no going back. I mean, you get it wrong once, you just get it wrong for a long time. What do you think, Rajesh? What is the role of communication design today?
I'm going to go back 23 years in my life. When I first heard the word graphic designer, and then I heard the word communication design, right? Now, I come from a small town called Mysore, and I'd never heard this word graphic designer in my life. And then I got into the paper business, and this Gora guy comes from all the way from UK and says, if you want to sell this paper, you have to meet a graphic designer. All my life, I had heard of a creative director, an architect, an interior designer, and that's it, no other designer. So I asked him, what breed are they? And he looked at me and said, hey, they put words and images together. And that was my first definition of what graphic design is. People who put words and images together. And at a basic level, I think that's perfectly all right. But people who do it sensibly, that's what I'm just going back 23 years. How narrow was our thinking in India at that time? We were probably 30 years behind London or any other developed country, but how behind we were in terms of what is communication design. We were overshadowed by, I think, advertising, and a lot of things that is spoken today is more advertising than communication design. I think communication design is very different from advertising. Advertising does use design in certain in ways, but I think you need to segregate the two. Communication design goes far, far, far beyond just. It's not short term. It's not tactical. It's more long term. It's strategy. It's vision. It's the DNA of the company. How do you put? How do I put this? It's about taking out the DNA of the company and making it visually impactful so that all the stakeholders can come together in that company. So I think communication design is far, far more than just words and images, especially as we go along in the life today.
Absolutely. I think coming together of so many kinds of faculties and so many kinds of moods and mindsets and words and images and all of that, And I love it when a person with non-designer background kind of puts advocacy forward for design. So Rajesh, you've been all that, and thank you so much for that. I'm going to move to our next question, and it's specifically for you, Chaity, because you have a long and illustrious academic background, and all our viewers right now are actually probably on the cusp of choosing what is it that they should be doing. So who are the right people to pursue design education, and more specifically communication design? Because you just heard our panelists talk about what is good design. It's all about empathy, and it's all about conceptual and other kind of thinking that needs to go forward. So who should pursue design education?
See, I think another thing why people misunderstood what graphic design is they think it's easy. Just now, Raj was saying long time ago, let's say in India, why do they think it's easy? You look at an advertisement, selling maybe jewelry. You get a beautiful actress or beautiful lady, you take a picture, put on makeup, and that's why a lot of parents might think that is simple. Okay, who can do this? For me is anyone can, so long that you love what you do. Without the love and passion, you will not want to do anything. So you have to be fussy. Why fussy? Because you want to make something perfect. So let's say I explained to the student that you need to change this here and there. They were saying that, but they can't see. They can't. I say, but do you want to do that? But it's for yourself. You understand? So and it's better that we spot our own mistake before the client spot your mistake. So I always, because I love that when students enjoy coming to the college to work. So the first love and passion, you need to have that. Now, some people comes very naturally when it comes to design and composition and color, things like that. It comes natural to them, but it doesn't mean that they don't have to learn. Some people have more on the left brain where, like I have a student who did a lot of coding, but it doesn't mean that they cannot, but it needs a lot of hard work. So that with hard work, you can, because we need to always practice. This is why people go to the gym. Now, people go to the gym to get muscles. We keep practicing to create that muscle on that brain inside here. So that, but I can share with you guys.
Would you would you like to share something more?
Yes, I would like to say that just now you guys mentioned about concept. How important, you see, concept is something that is intangible. We can't touch it. So it is our job as a designer to come up with a visual so that you can convince people what is that. Say, for instance, there's this assignment that is to create an ideogram, all right, for visual communication. So I can share something with you guys and share screen.
So if you're sharing a screen?
Yes. Can everybody see my screen? So long time now, we also have to understand, because things have changed. Long time ago, people used to use pencil to represent visual communication, but we use pencil. You can see now it's still a sketch, but there are more to that, because we also have to think about, we are using a lot of Illustrator, we're using a lot of all this pen tool. So we try that. Now, when they show me something like that, that's when I will explain to them. Say, for example, logically, the eye shouldn't be here. Now, this is very interesting because that you can see there's a word balloon there. It's trying to say is communication. It's trying to talk to you, all right? But we have to polish it up. So even if you move it in the middle, it looks like a fish, okay? We must learn to be critical of the work. So as we move on, I say to students, now, what can we do? Now, if I were to use this no longer look like an eye. So what can I do with this? If I add eyelashes, things will change, right? Now, these eyelashes is only so thin. Now, what if I add a beautiful one? But because all these are very heavy, that's when we can start doing things like that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes. So these are the things that people might not know that what we do for visual communication. So now, how am I supposed to get out?
Yeah, so I think it's lovely to see what progression can do and how mind can think and move to the next step, and visual communication can sort of, it has immense possibilities, right? It's I think only the mind is the limitation, and there is no other limitation.
Yes. So you can see that there's a process.
Don't worry.
Sure. Rajesh, would you like to add something to this?
I think Can you repeat the question once again? Sorry, just to
Yeah, I was saying, who should pursue design education? What
sorry.
kind of people and
I
what
think,
qualities?
when you start looking at what career you want to get into, you're young. I think at that point in time, you have to make sure you understand whether you want to be an artist or you want to be a designer. I think a lot of people see their children drawing very well and then they say, hey, good designer. Put them in a design course.
True.
I think fundamentally at that point, you have to understand whether you want to be an artist or you want to be a designer.
Absolutely.
One's talent, the artist talent lies in perfecting the craft, which is great. But on the
also self-expression. I think artist is expressing himself or herself, whereas designer is doing it for somebody else, right?
For a designer, you have to solve a problem. Your skills should lie in problem solving. You have to combine talent with insight and thinking with the ability to execute. So it's not just pretty images. It's got a lot more than that. I think that's the fundamental shift that you have to start thinking whether I am going here or here. And if you've got that clarity in mind, then I think you've got it there. So I just wanted to add, what's the first step you have to take before you go into this?
Right. I think it adds a lot of clarity. So I think anybody who's listening right now, just ask yourselves if you want to solve the problems of the world or you want to do self-expression, because craft is something that can be taught, whether self-taught or in a college or school is different, but craft can be taught. But I guess, what is your aptitude? Is it for self-expression or is it for solving problems? Would you like to add something, Jimmy? Who should pursue design education?
Important that the basics in life are clear. Most people are confused at a basic level. Like Rajesh was explaining, the difference between an artist and a designer. For me, both, even a designer is an artist, but the ability to be able to see the art form into execution is a designer's responsibility. So you can visualize what you want, you can draw it out, but if you're not able to communicate it, or in terms of a designer, you're able to execute that particular ideation if we're using the art of execution and the disciplines of execution. So you need to understand this, but most children at a certain point in time do not know the difference of what is execution. For that matter, most qualified strategists do not know what is execution. Most strategies in organizations fail because they lack the discipline of execution. So it's very, very important, but an exposure to art and design at some point in time on a generic platform and then going into a specialized platform is definitely the need of the hour. And a lot of now education is, of course, taking a nosedive, a 360-degree turn with digitization being accepted as a norm post-COVID. So a lot of international talent is also available as teachers, which was not there till now. So how beautifully Chaity explained with 3 slides the method of communication. What is communication design? It was so beautifully, she put it up in 2 minutes. Now, it also depends upon the caliber of the academia who's teaching you or trying to communicate. But without borders, now the source of this particular talent is worldwide. And Indian design industry, I think Rajesh mentioned that we are 30 years behind. Rajesh, I completely agree with you in our design conceptualization and the whole overall approach towards design. We are 50 years behind. And we have a lot of catching up to do. But then that is India. We were 50 years behind with the rest of the world in telecommunication. We leapfrogged. We were behind from the world in so many other things, and we have really leapfrogged ahead. Now it is a time of design, and with worldwide academic knowledge available without boundaries and without cost or at a very, very fraction of a cost, I think this is our time to leapfrog ahead in design. And when we are talking of competition with China, people are talking of make in India non-stop. I don't see a single voice talking of design in India. You cannot make in India till the time you design in India. I think the foundation of making in India for anything lies in design, and communication design forms a very, very important parcel of that communication. So that's my 2 bits on education and design, coming from a man who's never gone through formal education.
But Jimmy, thank you. It's wonderful to hear such advocacy for design and, of course, for design in India. And yes, I think at ADI as well as many other platforms, we have been speaking about it and we've been trying to get to the policy level as well. And thank you for bringing that up. I think it's a great insight also to say that we can now access the kind of faculty and educators from around. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Let me just add half a minute. So our Prime Minister, our beloved Prime Minister, whom I respect so much, he spoke about India coming ahead in furniture design, so China imports stop. I only wish somebody could penetrate into the PMO office and make him realize that if India leapfrogs in design, not only furniture, communication design, but every form of manufacturing and every industry will benefit. So the PMO's office should be the torchbearer, not just of furniture industry and promote that, but they should be promoting design. And that is going to be a game changer for our country. In competition with China, in competition with the rest of the world. Design is what I think forms. Today, the Italians, I've never been worried, no matter how bad their economy, because design emanates from Italy. They will never be jobless. Their manufacturing might collapse, but because of design, they will always innovate. And I mean, at the root foundation of innovation is design. You cannot innovate without design. So for me, it's very, very important that bureaucracy and politicians understand the importance of design, and that we don't get to see very often. Right now, within the country, a case in point is the walkway at Bandra Kurla complex. So in Mumbai, which is the financial capital of the country, Bandra Kurla is the new business district and tom-tom in the whole country. Can you look at the design of the walkway? It's hideous. It's 1970s East Africa. So the business district enters through a walkway, which is as archaic and ancient in its design approach. That could have been symbolizing a different language to the business district and the new India. So for me, it is very important that our center understands to give importance to design and design education. Sorry, I just interrupted.
Well said. Well said.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think, Jimmy, maybe you are just the person to reach out to PMO office and do this for the whole design fraternity and education. I think we're going to catch you for that later. So Rajesh, I'm going to move to the next question, and that's for you, because you talked about 23 years ago, and I think most of those years, or a little less than that, I have known of you, and you have been what I call the best friend of design for the longest time. And you have seen so many designers come up and start their businesses and go on to do some amazing work, win awards internationally, and some of them also, on a downward path and not being so successful. So you've seen the design side of the designers, and you've seen the business side of design offices. What do you think? Of course. So what do you think is what would your opinion be about what makes a good designer and what makes a good business?
What makes a good designer? I can write a PhD thesis on that.
But just tell us the gist of it right now.
Okay. And
because all our students who are listening want to know that.
Yeah, there are students listening. That's okay. I also have 2 professional designers here. So can I be very candid in this, what I talk about? I can be candid, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think if design is a profession, then the work matters the most, not anything else. The work that the designer does matters the most. So the first point I would like to make here is good designers are invisible. Personal style, preferences, aesthetics are not important. It is about solving a problem, sensitive to how the world is moving, be aware of business developments that will impact the branding and marketing communication, react and create things that work. So good designers are invisible. They are ready to change their own philosophy because relevant work is good work. That's my first point. Second point, I think, is where a lot of problem comes with good designers. Good designers need to learn how to let go. And I think that's a very important part of the skill set that a good designer needs to know. Responding to market needs require different skill sets, which others can also bring, not only you. So you have to acknowledge weakness, let go of ego, learn to collaborate. Because new norms, and especially you're seeing new norms are now changing every day. Online is becoming so much more than this thing. Today, if you go to a traditional design or branding agency, they say it takes 6 months to do a branding job. But a startup needs to be operational in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time.
Right.
So the new norms are coming into play. So I think good designers need to learn how to let go and require collaborators to produce in-depth work. So the second point is good designers need to let go. Third, good designers are supposed to be creative. By profession, designers means creative, but I'm saying they're supposed to be creative beyond just design. They need to reinvent the studio model. They need to start reinventing their working processes. If there are limitations to growth, they need to find solution. Elephant Design's done a great work in that, Ashwini, I must say. Sujata did a great work. But then there were a lot of people who could not find the midway, could not find a solution to growth. They had limitations and they never went beyond that. And I think that's where you need to be creative, not just in your profession, but also in other things that come. Could be tech, could be partnership, could be processes, all of that. You have to be creative in all of those to come up.
Sure.
Then I think fourth point I'd like to make is good designers bring clarity. The world is confused enough. I'm saying there's a statement that I used to make. I'm already very confused. Don't confuse me more. Right? So the world is confused enough. Do not add to it by saying bullshit, by using jargons, using what I mean. The first time I got into design and I met Sujata and then I met some more designers way back in Bangalore. Somebody said, hey, this is the new logo I'm creating, and my client brief was, I need a fresh. I said, which client in the world will come to a designer and say, I want a stale logo? What kind of a brief is that? And I was not designing. So I'm saying you're supposed to bring clarity. If the client is wrong, you're supposed to tell them what is wrong. Understand their audience, who they are, all of those. Be humble, self-access, self-critical. And the last one I think is good designers should stop designing.
What does that mean?
I know. I'm saying the new norm have to have time for crafting the most beautiful aesthetic. That's okay. But what matters is, does that work? So is it relevant? If it is strategically strong and creatively implemented, it is good work. So I think when I say good designers should stop designing, I said they should start thinking much more strategically, and the entire work that they do, 80% of it should be strategy, values, vision, 10 years time, collaboration, where the business is headed, who are the competitors, what are the competitors doing, what are they not doing, where's that gap that this company can find its DNA, and 20% is the manifestation of that strategy. So I think when I say good designers should stop designing, it's also that they should start thinking much more on the strategy side rather than just on the creative side. Unless you're an artist, in which case you design, you're an illustrator, you're an artist, and that's what you do. Those are my 5 points about what good designers should be.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you so much. I just hope not only design aspirants and students, but also professional designers are listening. And if not, they should listen much of what you said right now. So I have a question just related to what you spoke right now. This whole definition of good design, how do you think it's going to change post what we are going through? And I don't know if it's going to change at all, but is it? And if yes, then how? Because the context has changed.
A lot of changes will happen. I mean, you look at the world around us, you look at globally. I had a few points. 1 second. I think if you look at globally, JCPenney has just closed shop, gone bankrupt. Neiman Marcus has filed for this thing. But on the other hand, they filed for bankruptcy. British brands Debenhams, Warehouse, and Oasis have closed. So I think there's a lot of changes that's happening, which is not the fault of designers. I'm not saying they closed because they had bad design or anything, but the whole norm, business model, everything is changing. And if good designers do not adapt to this change, they will be left behind. What's the opportunity now today? E-commerce, startups, which implies for a new future clients, especially those that are offering products and services, they need very quick deployment. Now, as designers, we also need to see if we can do something that we don't have to tell them that this logo will take 6 months time or 4 months time. We could also tell them, hey, look, you need to go to market in 2 months time. Let me do this in the first phase and give it to you. And while you're on the market, let's also still work behind, combined with insights that
keep evolving.
Keep it going. And I think that's something that the design world is not getting ready for, because they like to take a they like to take a project, finish it, move on to the next one. Why can't you have a client on a retainer for 3 years? Why can't you be the brand guardian for that client? Why can't you be the one who says, "I will handhold you for the next 3 years," and not just do your work, give it to you, and then you do whatever you want to do? I think the whole model of how you has to change. In the new
I think some great messages there, and especially for students, because design is not a short-term something. It's a long-term. Design is not a hobby. It's a serious business, and it can actually change fortunes of so many businesses. And on that note, I'm going to move to Jimmy and ask him some questions specifically for him. Jimmy, you've not only been a prominent designer, but you've created unique experiences. You've been a very, very successful entrepreneur in many of the streams that you have started. So what is the role of design experience creation? How do you see that in all your businesses? How do you create experiences? Because experience is not something that it's not one way. People you create it for have to feel that. So how do you do this balance?
Ashwini, to begin with, successful, I don't know. I'm still taking my baby steps in various businesses, and we're still kind of getting our bearings correct. However, having said that, yes, we do specialize in creating experiences because we've always put ourselves into the other person's shoes. Whatever we've done, and we've done with a deep amount of realization and acknowledging the fact that I don't come with a degree in architecture or design or in management degree. So if I went into the business of design, I had a responsibility to shoulder. I had to give a more value for its buck to each of my customers. If I was designing a radio station, I wanted my radio station to stand out. And we had started practicing design thinking way too early. So 2007 was the first time I did a course with IDEO on design thinking. It made me realize that the design processes are so important. If the end result has to turn out unique and nice, the design processes are so important. And like Rajesh said, designers' responsibility is holistic. It's not just to a given problem. Because most times when customers come to you, they do not know what they want. Like he said, they want a fresh logo. I mean, the baboon did not know that no logo is going to be given to him unfresh. I mean, the customer's unmet needs to be understood requires a certain depth of knowledge in the designer and the design practice, because you need to look at various dimensions of the person's business. So if you're designing for a finance company, if you're designing for ABC, like when we did Bajaj going into pro biking, we came up with a complete fresh solution and concept. We had never done retail design before. Now, there are various examples. Coming back to experiential design, what fascinates somebody in a 5-star, I'm talking with specific example with hospitality, is not the gold-plated fittings or the marbles. People, okay, it's fine, it's good, but it doesn't touch your emotions. But when somebody goes to a washroom in Della and comes out with a smiling face, I think the job is well done. As far as that's an assertion or a certification that yes, the job in design is well done. Because to bring that smile out on somebody's face again and again and again is what good design is all about. And it is these small experiences together that when we practice on a regular basis, we become good at doing. So there are multiple touch points that we win over the hearts of our clients, customers, guests, whatever we call them. And hence, we've always thought of what is not available in the country. So we pioneered the concept of adventure parks. In 2008 recession, when business was dull for interiors, we would have to lay off 650 people. We decided, why don't we go into the business of adventure? This doesn't exist in the country. So again, unmet needs of people, when they are fulfilled, it becomes a successful business. The same thing happened in luxury hospitality. We came up with a concept of multiple resorts in the same property. So we've got 5 resorts in one property and 1 resort which is 1 hour away. And we create experiences so people don't mind coming back to us again and again. We have one common property that's known for luxury guests as much as it's known for adventure, as much as it's known for weddings. Now, again, a couple of years later, we innovated adventure in a different avatar, which is military theme. So we coined the word counterterrorism training for civilians. Something like this never existed in the country. And even today, there is not a single luxury military theme resort in the world. And we've managed to create in the middle of the forest, give counterterrorism training, and yet make it luxury. So it's not a boot camp, it's not a regimental training. The finest. What happens is all these are well thought out, using the process of design thinking, using empathy, understanding what is not available, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, be it for graphic design or be it for interior design or be it for architecture. So very, very important is to have a very original, genuine approach towards empathy in your DNA. And then you come up with solutions of what is not available. Post this pandemic, all the more. What has happened? Your earlier question to Rajesh was very interesting. What is going to change post this pandemic? And what do designers need to do? What's going to change really is physically everything is same. It's not a natural disaster. There has been no floods, no earthquakes. You can't see destruction. But what has been destroyed is the human spirit. Now the human spirit is scared. The human spirit is vulnerable. The human spirit may lose a job, may lose a business. So a lot of vulnerability, or may lose their lives. There is this uncertain situation is going to put human beings in a different place. And it is our job as design solution providers to have empathy and approach it with great amount of caution and be problem solvers with whatever aspect of human life we are touching.
Can I add something? I think it's fantastic.
Yes, Chaity.
I feel like when you use the word empathy, I think this is such a correct word. Say, I always give myself students an example. Let's say we talk about the animal deer, but nowadays the students are different because their life is no longer around us. Their life is in the mobile phone. Their fingers, that's their life now. Stop being observant. So, and I told the student this story let's say the animal deer in the forest, they are very sensitive. They're very alert because they're afraid the hunters will come if they go out to get water, to the river to drink water. Now, when you compare those deer in the zoo, they are different. They lost the instinct. They lost all this instinct because it's so easy to get water, they can just come out from there. And I think nowadays the student too have to think about that. That's the instinct they lost. So they can zoom in. If they look at Instagram of their friends, what they are wearing, they zoom in and they can criticize 10 different things. But I said to the student that, but you never zoom in your own design and look at all the things that you need to change. So these are the things that, that's why you say that, why you can do that, like you need to look around the thing. You are thinking ahead. That's why the problem solving is so important. I always tell students, when you want to be creative, it's not like you becoming a Michelangelo. How are you going to solve that problem first? And also, one is whenever they come up with a solution, they're also creating a problem. So they will think that, okay, I want this particular thing. But I say, okay, well, how are we going to print it? How are we going to do a prototype? We're not printing bulk. These are the little solutions, problems you have to face. And they must also learn how to foresee that problem and what kind of things they see. So I thought you guys are fantastic talking about that because it's all like many things are connected to each other. And we have to understand that long time ago, the marketeers are the one that design things for us. But now they look at us to design things. And that's why many people probably become more lazy because of smartphone thing.
Right. So I'm going to ask a special question for Jimmy actually. And that's, well, you've had a really amazing entrepreneurial journey. And I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you started your first business so early that you didn't complete a part of your formal education. So what is the one piece of advice you gave to your children about education, degrees, diplomas? I'm really curious to know.
This is a wrong question to ask me on this. No, but yeah, I dropped out of my diploma in mechanical engineering. I learned everything I wanted to learn. And I always knew I was going to work on my own, and that diploma had no value for me in those days. But, and it was a big struggle. It was a huge risk and it was a big struggle. So when it comes to my own kids and people around, I advise them. I'm a great proponent of self-learning. I have practically self-learned myself, architecture, design, interiors, learning from studios way early in life, traveling across. So and the learning process still continues. I am still sitting and learning. I'm still wanting to go to Stanford and someday do design thinking and so on and so forth. It still continues. The learning process has never stopped. But it's something that you need to decide. You are going to implement what you learn, or you are learning because you want that diploma or the degree. This is something you need to decide way early in life. And if you want to learn because you want to learn, it's a very different experience from you wanting to complete that course and get that degree or get that diploma. So I'm not saying education is super important, but you decide whether you want the degree or you want the learning. And for me, I want the learning. So you can't eat the cake and have it too. You can't put your legs in both sides and say, I want both. You'll have to decide way early in life, what is it that you wish to do? And then there's perseverance and consistency. You cannot decide today you want a diploma or a degree, and tomorrow you say, no, but I will only do selective learning. So the paths are different. Selective learning is what I am a proponent of. But I think both the paths ultimately leads towards a similar goal. At the end of the day, you need to struggle more when you don't have those degrees under your belt. But self-learning is again a great thing. However, every kind of learning comes through education. So you cannot, you're in self-learn. When you're self-learning, also it comes through the academics, it comes through practical learning, and it comes through inspirational learning. But nevertheless, learning has to never stop in life. And that's what makes you stay relevant. Otherwise, you soon become passé and you no longer are ahead of the curve. You need to struggle and learn non-stop.
I think very important. Also in design, learning is by doing. So unless you do, there is no real learning. There are no textbooks in design. So I guess
prototyping, and most designers
Absolutely.
today, I'll be shocked and surprised. Even people coming out of NID do not understand the importance of prototyping. They are ready to go ahead. They're not waiting for inspiration. They're not waiting for research, and they are ready to start drafting with their mouse or their pencils. And for me, that's a first no. When I meet a new designer, discuss something, the person goes out and they're ready to work. I mean, they haven't done their research, they haven't printed their inspirations in front of them, and they're ready to go out and start working. Which is their thought process has been doctored by a certain pattern of education, and it takes a lot of time to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So design fraternity needs to look at how not to doctor people's minds and allow them to think why before they do something.
Sure. So I think there are some questions coming in from people who are viewing this, and there's one question which I'm going to pose to Rajesh, because he sort of has a ringside view. If he could just tell opportunities in visual and communication design, what could students be doing when they come out? Because if I say that, it'll be from one kind of perspective, and if Chaity says it, it'll be from another. But I think you have a ringside view, and it's just interesting to know what you think are the opportunities.
I think I'm going to piggyback on what Jimmy said. When a student leaves the college, the first thing he does is he thinks, hey, I have become a designer. And then there's this whole surreal thing about what I should be paid. And the NID guys will think I should be paid 20 lakh rupees and somebody else is getting paid 15 lakh rupees. And I think they're all on the wrong track. The first thing he should do is, hey, I've studied something, I've learned something, I need to now gain experience. Which is the best studio that I can go and get experience from? Where can I go? Even if he has to serve, for example, if they come to Elephant Design and they're serving coffee, does not matter. They need to understand that they need to get experience for a couple of years and then find their true path, true north. Whether they want to go freelance, whether they want to start their own studio, or whether they want to continue, whatever they want to do. I think that's the part that a lot of students, and my experience is India more or less, but or London. And London, they do go through a 2 years, 3 years experience. Indian designers don't. They want to go freelance. I have met designers, and I probably met the maximum number of student designers in India, more than anybody else in India. And they say, I can do 3 wedding cards and I get 6 lakh rupees. Why the hell am I going to work for 3 lakh rupees? They don't realize they'll keep doing those 3 or 4 or 5 wedding cards for the rest of their life. And their income will go to maybe 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs. But they'll never reach beyond that. So I think the first advice I'm going to give is learn in a design education, but work, experience, and learn more in a design studio. I think that's the first thing that students
Sure.
need to do.
Sure.
Second is designers don't stop learning. The day you stop learning, you stop being relevant. So you don't stop learning. And you need to keep reading books. You need to keep looking out there. I mean, today books are relevant in many ways. You have the internet, but if designers are not curious people and they don't look around, if you're in a taxi, talk to the driver. Where is he coming from? What is he doing? What kind of food they eat? What kind of music they listen to? If you don't have conversations with the people on the ground, you will become irrelevant. If you have only aspirations of going up and you try to talk to people only who are above, you will lose all relevance with the people on the ground. So be curious, talk to people, look around you. If you're walking in a jungle, look at shades of green. Why are there so many different types of green? Which green excites you more? What is different about that? So be curious about the environment around you, the people around you, and learn from them. These are two more important things that I think they should have.
Wonderful. Thank you. Chaity, there's a question from the audience, and somebody says that design education, I mean, I'm just saying the gist of it. Design education is expensive and I don't have the kind of money. So how should I pursue design?
Oh, wow. This is, I think a businessman will probably can answer this question. See, seriously, I mean, nowadays.
Come to you, Rajesh. Go ahead, Chaity.
Yes, if Rajesh, because it's really tough because when you do, let's say, when we do packaging design, you do need to print to make sure that your template is correct. So, but then you need, because design, you need someone to explain to you. That's right. Nowadays, there's a lot of YouTube, but if YouTube can do the job, then there's no college anymore. You know, so it depends on what kind of design you're looking for. Let's say if you're doing multimedia design, then that will be different. You don't need to do print. So that is more about software based in a way that you can still learn. And that's what everybody was saying, that you need to be observant. You need to probably ask, I mean, I ask a lot of questions that sometimes the student will say that, you know, other people are doing that. I say, other people are doing such a design doesn't mean that they're right. So that's when you need to learn how to be critical. But I'm sorry, I can't answer if it's that they can't. I think a business perspective will be better.
Rajesh, would you like to attempt that?
I don't think design is a profession you can learn. I have seen the best of designers who have not studied design as a discipline. Vince Frost never studied to be a designer. He attended some session of Neville Brody on the sidelines, loved what Neville Brody does, and just jumped into graphic design, learned on his own, and he's now quite a big designer based in Australia. Closer to home, Kei Khoo was an economist, studied economics in Canada, went back to Malaysia, started a bookstore, but kept books on design, couldn't sell the books, read all of them, and became a great designer. So I don't think for those who are saying they don't have money, I don't think design is a profession. Design is one of the few professions that you can do on your own. In design, if you have the mental, I mean, if you love design, if you do what you love what you do, and if you want to be a designer, just go there and start doing it. Just start learning all the software. Go out there, meet people, read books. You don't need anything more than that.
Sure. Jimmy, you wanted to...
Very, very quickly, I'm an example of never having learned design a day in my life. But I've worked as a contractor for multiple architects and design studios. And that was my learning ground. Every architect practice and designers practice the way they work. And you learn by implementing it as a contractor. So if you're into visual communications or you're into printing, you work on the other side and learn design. If you have an inspiration to learn design, you will find 1,000 ways to learn design. And there is no shortage now with the internet. It's no longer even books, like Rajesh said. It's a world is your playground, and you have masterclass. You have so many things where you can learn design from. But it's very important to go through the grind. There is no easy way out. People want a very easy way out, that they'll study for a month and they'll do some couple of videos and they think they know it all. But design doesn't work that way. You need to go through the grind. And the best way is to practice design and learn design simultaneously. And for that, you don't need money, because you can work as a contractor. You can work in an architect's office serving tea, coffee, and you will still learn design. We had a office pune in my office who became a graphic designer. And today he's successfully doing a visual communication way better, because his whole thought process is very different. He was a pune who was serving in the office, and he never spent a rupee to learn design. But he operates all the softwares, and he does a kick-ass job more better than a graduate coming in from a university. So it's all about, I agree with Rajesh, it's all about the enthusiasm, how badly the person wants to, how passionate is the person for design. And then there is no looking back. You can't hold a person down who's passionate about design.
I think wonderfully answered. I'm really, really thankful to all of you for giving so many inspiring quotes and messages and examples. So just to sum up, I think I'm going to take one word from each of you, and that's what I've sort of noted. I think Chaity said that you need passion. to get into design education. So passion is the first word. Jimmy, you talked about empathy, and I think it's an extremely important quality that a designer needs to have, whether communication design or any other field of design. I think empathy is extremely important. Rajesh, you talked about curiosity, and I think that's again another something that absolutely cannot be compromised. You have to observe, ask questions, and so on. And finally, coming to the last bit, which is you cannot just weave ideas into a world of imaginary something. You have to be able to actually execute them. So you have to do. So design is not just about thinking, but it's also about doing. And I think on that note, I hope all of you who are listening do find your own paths in whether in communication design, in design, or anywhere in the world. And I would like to wish all of you the very best in whatever it is that you choose. Do it well, do it with passion. And I'm going to hand it over now back to Pallavi. Thank you all. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
Rajesh and Chaity, pleasure meeting both of you. Ashwini, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashwini. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much for enlightening us. Wow, I'm not even a student of design, and I'm so inspired by every single thing that's being spoken. I'm given to understand that people who weren't even in this field, just because of their desire to be lifelong learners, just because of their desire to really work in this area, actually went ahead and could make a career out of themselves. So I'm very sure that all our students have found brilliant answers to all their questions. Thank you once again to each and every one of you for helping us understand what it takes. And I just want to be able to share what Mariona Lopez said, that design is a formal response to a strategic question. That's food for thought again, and I'm sure that everybody who's listening in and watching out there is definitely going to start thinking